So today's power was Master of Blades. This one needs a little bit more explanation compared to my last few, honestly. Master of Blades is basically you take any sword fighting technique that has ever existed throughout all of human history, and you summon the sword, and then you fight with said technique, like with the same proficiency that a master would have, right? So that's the idea behind the superpower, right? And so I wanted to try to convey that with like the no, I guess not the paneling, but like the without using words, right? Having the imagery really like I would say really help out with explaining what's happening, right? So originally I wanted to have like the classic, like sheathed katana, right, like on the hip. I mean, it's a very classic pose. But then I was like, well, how do I, show that it could be from either culture? And so then I elected to put the Crusader on the right side, which I think really helps tie it together. Obviously, because I'm bad at planning, I had to kind of do this on the fly. Again, I will say I think the anatomy was pretty good here, mostly because I was using a reference. I don't know what the manga I was actually stole this from is, but to be fair, the guy and all the references I could find, people are always wearing like the whatever that like Japanese like dress thing is. I think it's a komodo. I don't think maybe I don't know, but like that dress, that garb. So it was very weird to see like where the feet were placed because it was always like a skirt, so it was much harder to focus on. Um, again, I think it still turned out good. I think I probably could have made. I think there's like some little adjustments, but most of it is pretty small. I did try to experiment with a bit of a different art style in this one. Because I don't know, I think like the basic shading, I think I don't know, it just feels very meh. Like it doesn't feel right to draw, right? And I think that like drawing in the way that I did this one, where I combined that more, anime-esque style of your cross or like more manga style of hatching and cross hatching and that kind of stuff to apply shading, and then going lighter on the actual like color palette. I think that generally, I think it makes it feels a lot more like it has like depth. I think it feels a lot more stylized. I think it feels, I guess, it also feels like a little more scrappy, right? Like it's more of a fight. So I think if I was to implement this into more of a manga thing, I would say that like, when it comes to action scenes, I'd probably develop more of this kind of, scratchy and scrappy style. But when it comes to more dialogue, I would say that I'd probably go back to the more traditional, like, clean looking stuff, because I think it conveys a bit more of an intensity that I think is missing from from that more traditional art style that you can see in some of my pieces. Again, so yeah, I wanted to go with a samurai on one side and the knight on the other. That was basically the only idea that I had. I do think it turned out fairly well. Nothing super crazy was drawn here. Again, I think all the anatomy lines up fairly well. Um, again, I tried to not harp so much, at least in this picture, about stuff like hands and that kind of feeling. Just because I don't know, I didn't really see the point in it. Because I want to try to get away from like being super, like, I don't know, wasting a bunch of time on just like little details that the general gist aren't going to. Because as long as like you can look at it and kind of get what's going on, I think that's enough. Because I'd much rather make sure the big picture looked good rather than like the itty bitty details. Um, and also just because like, man, I could I have spent another 2 hours making sure that every single last pixel of this was amazing and making sure every thread was this that, like, yes, I could have probably spent more time, it would have looked better, but what's the point, right? The point is to learn how to draw these superpowers and how to think about them. I think I'll get good enough at art in the meantime. I will say this like I guess boom coming off of his feet was kind of weird to draw. it was definitely odd because it comes out in a very odd like cone shape, but it's not like it's weird to think about how it would look because unlike anatomy where like you can like look at your hand and figure out how your hand's supposed to look, and even if you fail, it's like there's still like a level of you know like, oh, okay, well, like that's what it was supposed to look like. Like you can see where you messed up with like things like having like a shock wave or electricity coming off somebody's hands or something something weird like that. It comes with this weird like is why does this feel wrong? Like it's a lot harder to discern the why on whenever I'm drawing this. And so I don't know. I think I tried to make it a little more like flowy. I guess is the best way to put it. I tried to make sure there was a little more flow and movement. Um, but yeah, I tried to make sure that it felt like both feet were coming off with like the very like the because I wanted to make it feel like he just like he stomped and then like he summoned the swords. Just because I think that it feels very I guess very like protagonisty. It feels very it feels again a lot of this stuff at least in this drawing it was very feel heavy. There was a lot less like tangible mistakes in terms of like the anatomy and like the this and the that because I think for the most part I've gotten a lot of that I've gotten much better at that kind of stuff, so now it's more down to the subjective feel and like staying more on model and in character and like this kind of like weird secondary thing, right? So yeah, again, we're most of the way through drawing. Yeah, so we started drawing the knight here. I don't know. I've always liked drawing knights. Don't know why. It's always just been a thing that I like doing. There's a reason why my main like the character for the channel is a crusader. And like yeah, sure, there's like some morally gray, a little bit dubious implications that come along with the crusaders, but I don't know. I think it's because like armor is so it feels like it's like extrapolating out what anatomy should be, right? Like like the like a shoulder blade, like a shoulder, the musculature can be weird and moving around, but I think when you draw armor on top of it, it like oversimplifies the effect, right? Like because it's much more of like a boxy shape. It's not, it's I don't know, it's a much more simplified idea of what the anatomy should be. So you can see here I'm doing my best to try to make it feel more manga adjacent, which I think it was a general success here. I think this looks like it could be a pretty solid manga panel. Um, and again, I think that the layering of color on top of this more this more hatching kind of style. That's why the hatching's very rough. It's because I know the color's going to come on. Because again, if I know there's not going to be color there, then I don't do any hatching. If I know that there's going to be, no color, then I focus much more on what the hatching should look like and that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, again, I really like this effect. It feels because I don't know, it feels like he's in the middle of a fight much more like accurately. I think it conveys a feeling of being much more battle hardened than I think other than I think like some of my other pictures have. Also, again, I like this swirling effect compared to the more booming effect on one side. I think it helps. I think it helps illustrate the feel. Also, I don't know. I went with like a darker, like more of like a red brown. Mostly because I don't really know what color. I didn't really know what color to use for the dress thing that he's wearing. Um, it's just because it's a very like I could have looked up what they traditionally look like. Also, I don't care that much, so like, but also, yeah, I don't know. So banking that I'm better at writing than I am drawing is what we're gonna be doing. Because again, I don't think my art's like necessarily horrible, but I don't think it's. I don't know. It still brings up concerns when it comes time to actually like put this into a story, right? Because I think that the writing will be good enough. It's just I'm hoping for like more of a One Punch Man situation where somebody that's better at drawing can come and draw all of this for me. That would be great. So, you know. But yeah, again, I think this still turned out very good. Still turned out very well. I did end up making the background black. I tried to have that outlining effect that I've done in a lot of my other past works. Just because I think I don't know, I like what the effect looks like. Even if it is sometimes weird, especially with all of like the little bits and pieces jutting out. Sometimes it gets a little weird on what exactly I should color in. And I was thinking of having it be more faded into the background, but then I ended up kind of I don't know, I ended up going back and forth on what exactly I wanted here a couple of times just because it's a very odd drawing. It's a very odd effect. Because without the context of a fight, it's weird to like, do I like where do I put him? Where do I place him in the context of a background, right? Like stuff like that. It's hard when it's just like a normal drawing. Um, yeah. So that was the drawing of today. I was gonna upload yesterday, but then I was hanging out with people and yada yada, and then the day before that, just again, plans stuff like that gets in the way of running a small YouTube channel. Um, So yeah, again, thank y'all all for watching. I should have something uploaded tomorrow to make up for it. Stay tuned for that. And yeah, I hope you all have a good day. Comment, whatever. Bye.